My name is Sydney and I am a spiritual mentor. And for today's live, day 2, I am wanting to talk all about people pleasing and the downsides of being a people pleaser. So thank you so much for joining me for this live series. I am going to try and go live every single day, Monday to Friday, for the next month, just to offer universal guidance, tips and tricks for your spiritual journey, personal stories, and maybe even the odd meditation or two. So whether you are live or on replay, give me a good old thumbs up there just to say hello and let me know that you are here, and let me know that you're interested in learning about people pleasing, what are the downsides to people pleasing, and how you can start listening to the voice of your soul. So let's jump right in. Now, I want to start off with a question. I had a conversation with a client recently, and people pleasing was kind of the topic of our session. So I want to ask you a question. What if people pleasing your way through life meant that you were devaluing yourself? What if people pleasing your way through life meant that you were devaluing yourself? Now, giving into the pressures of other people as a people pleaser is really challenging, but it actually happens more often than not, and it really affects your self-perception when you know in your heart that you want to say no. It's really hard because there's all of these pressures that surround us, and most often we say yes to other people, other people's opinions, other people's requests, other people's perceptions on a situation. We say yes to them because we don't trust ourselves, because we don't believe in ourselves, because we don't accept and approve of ourselves. And so people pleasing goes all the way back to the beginning of your life, and it is a pattern that you were programmed into. And it's something that often you don't even realize why it's happening or why you're behaving that way. It's a subconscious pattern that's controlling the way that you show up in the world. And you were probably taught from a young age that, it's good to be kind, it's good to be nice, it's good to be selfless and to constantly be taking care of everyone else. Except people pleasing has real downsides, and it really affects your self-worth, because often you are stepping into that people-pleasing space because you don't believe you're worthy. Now, let's get into an actual example so we can kind of see how this shows up, and then I want to get into some perspective shifts that are going to help you see yourself differently, see the world differently. And just as a reminder, you can have a compassionate, kind heart without being a people pleaser. So into my client's experience, I had a client that shared how they questioned why they did something when they really didn't want to, right? So she was like, I did this thing, but I knew I didn't want to do it. Why? And she very much acknowledged that still experiencing those people-pleasing habits, but she wanted to break away from them. So more specifically, she went on a date, and the other person had insisted that they each get their own slice of cheesecake. Now, this specific client of mine has issues with food, and food is very triggering for her. And so she's really been pursuing this path of eating more healthy and trying to improve her self-perception around food and the way that she interacts with food. And so while on this date, she didn't want to share all of this private information about her, how food triggers her and how she's kind of on this healing journey with food. She didn't want to share that with someone that she just met. This is very early on in a relationship. I believe it might have even been the first date. So she just stated that she was desiring to eat healthy, and so she was going to pass on the cheesecake. Now, the person that she was on the date with really pushed her and pressured her to get the cake anyways, and kind of came from this perception of like, oh, who cares about being healthy just this once? Come on, like, get the cheesecake, it's gonna be great. And she didn't know what to do in that moment, so she just said yes. And then she walked away from that experience really kind of feeling shame and feeling guilt for having done something that she knew she didn't want to do. And she walked away having questioned, like, should I say no? Should I learn to say no? But then another part, is there a message of learning to be okay with not eating healthy, right? There was like this back and forth of, it was something that was very triggering for her. So she didn't know that if there was like a message in it to be okay, but then also she was really stepping away from what her heart and soul were saying, which was, no, don't get the cheesecake today. And she went and did it anyways. And so she said to me that on some level, I thought that if I stood my ground, he would decide he doesn't like me, or that it would make the experience awkward. And that is the main problem with people pleasing. Both sides. So the one side is we people please because we want to feel worthy. We want to feel accepted by that person. We want that person to approve of us and say that we're a good person and they want to continue to spend time with us, right? So what we end up doing as people pleasers, and I say we because I'm a recovering people pleaser. I have been in this state in my life. But what we end up doing is we agree with that other person in whatever their opinion is, whatever the value is that they're holding on life. We agree with them because we want them to think that we're a good person. We want them to accept us. But the reason why this is a problem is because ultimately we're not accepting ourselves. It's literally what my client went through, is she felt in her heart and soul that she didn't want the cheesecake, but she said yes because she thought if she said no, he wouldn't like her. So as a people pleaser, on a very subconscious level, we're not aware that we're doing this until we become aware. And that's why I'm bringing this conversation to you today, so you can become aware of this subconscious pattern that you move through in order to change the pattern, in order to come from a grounded place of knowing you're worthy, knowing that you can approve yourself, you can accept yourself. And the beautiful thing is that when we learn to say no because we are trusting ourselves and we are listening to the voice of our soul, and we are saying, I accept that this no is important to me. What we end up doing is the people in our lives who don't respect us start to fall away. And the people in our lives who do respect us and the connections that we are meant to build off of respect, recognizing that we're all individuals and we're allowed to have different beliefs, we're allowed to have different values, we're allowed to live in a way that serves us as the unique individual that we are. You attract those people into your life. When you accept and approve of yourself, you attract more people who accept you as the true, authentic version of you. If you keep forming yourself into a version of somebody who you hope will be accepted by others, you're coming further and further away from yourself. And that's actually something that I experienced in my own journey. I was so focused on pleasing the people in my life and helping them and serving them that I was a chameleon, and I started to shift and change, and I became somebody who, once I awakened to this pattern, I said, I don't like who I am, and this doesn't feel like the real me. And so it was in that moment where I realized, oh my gosh, I've been people pleasing my way through life, shifting the truth of who I am just to receive approval from somebody else because I wasn't approving of myself. So that's kind of the first issue that we experience with people pleasing. Now, the second thing that my client had said was, on some level, she thought that if she stood her ground, that it would make the experience awkward. What are you doing in your life just to try and keep everyone else comfortable? But in the end, it makes you uncomfortable. This is such a natural trait for people pleasers, is we wear these masks, we put on these personas, we hide our truth, we stay small in this box to try and keep everyone else comfortable. We don't want to rock the boat. When in reality, trying to keep everyone else comfortable is starting to make us uncomfortable because we're hiding our true self. We aren't living as this expansive, beautiful, vibrant being that we came here to be. We're keeping ourselves small so we don't rock the boat. And that's definitely something that I learned in my own life is, when I start people pleasing my way through life or, tiptoeing in a situation, not using my voice, not standing my ground and sharing my opinion on a value or a perspective that is truly important to me. When I don't do that, just because I'm afraid of tension, I'm afraid of confrontation, I'm afraid that things are going to get awkward, I dampen my own voice. I am making myself small. And how will I ever find the courage to stand up for what I believe in if I'm constantly moving through life, making myself small to keep everyone else comfortable? That is a true downside to people pleasing. So if you find yourself in this space in your life, if this situation, this experience, this example really resonates with you, I'm going to encourage you that it's time to start getting comfortable with saying no and really learning to do what's right for you. I'm not saying that you have to say no to everything. I'm saying that right now you're not comfortable with saying the word no. And it's okay. Saying no is not the end of the world, right? And the people that have always been able to take advantage of you because you've said yes to everything, they're going to be angry at first. There is going to be a season of life where you are rocking the boat because they're not used to you standing your ground. They are used to taking advantage of you. And they don't like it that they can't anymore. And so they're going to get defensive, argumentative, because you are finally standing in your truth. Those are the people that are in our life can start to fall away because they're not supporting you when you are saying, this doesn't align with me, or I don't have the energy. I'd love to help you, but my schedule's already full for that day. Right? So it's starting for you getting comfortable with saying no and learning to do what's right for you. Now, a perspective shift, I already mentioned this, but something for you to carry into your own life is asking yourself, are you doing something just to keep somebody else comfortable, but it makes you uncomfortable? Pay attention, right? Like my client. She said yes to eating the cheesecake when she felt uncomfortable. She already knew that she had triggers around food. And now she's forcing herself into an uncomfortable situation because it's even more uncomfortable for her to make somebody else feel uncomfortable. We can be kind without being nice. Being nice sometimes is allowing people to walk all over us and change who we are, not for the better. So, shifting who you are to be accepted by the world. Is that what you're doing? Are you shifting who you are to be accepted by the world? Because ultimately what it comes down to in your journey is learning to love and accept yourself for who you are. Right? Oftentimes, our internal judgment is so much louder that we make ourselves small for fear of other people judging us, when in reality, we're judging ourselves, okay? And in that, When you're trying to make everyone else comfortable, but you're uncomfortable, another downfall, you are giving your power away. You are giving your power away. You are saying that person is more worthy than me. That person is more powerful than me. That person gets to be right more than me. When in reality, we all have this equal amount of power. Power is, there's no hierarchy. We are all deserving in the same way. We are all worthy in the same way. We are all powerful in the same way. Except as a people pleaser, you are lessening yourself for fear of how that person is perceiving you. I've been there. I know what that feels like, and I'm telling you, you can break away from that pattern. So how? How can you start to overcome these people-pleasing patterns that you see in your life? First, I want to remind you, start small, right? You're building awareness. You're starting to recognize that people-pleasing does not serve you, and you want to live in a way that you are following the voice of your soul. You are listening to your truth, and you are standing strong in who you are. So the first thing, start practicing saying no in small instances. Right? Just small things, little things. Don't go for the big things. Just start small. You know, when somebody asks something of you and you feel in your body that it's not right, take a moment to just say, you know what? That doesn't really work for me right now. Or the best thing yet that you can say is, I'm not sure right now. Can you give me some time and I'll come back to you with a definite answer? That is better than saying yes immediately, because what that does is it allows you to be removed from the situation, step into your own energy, and check in with yourself. Does saying yes align with me? Or do I need to say no and set a boundary? And then you can come back to that person in a day or a few hours and you can say, you know what, I really took some time to think about it, and unfortunately, it just doesn't work for me right now. Right? So start practicing saying no in small instances. Now, the second step, this one was huge for my journey on breaking away as a people pleaser. Because as a people pleaser, I was very indecisive in making decisions because I didn't want to rock the boat. So I let everyone else make the decisions when it was like a group thing that we were doing. So the second tip, start sharing your opinions in conversations that don't have repercussions, right? When everyone is just having a good time, maybe we're trying to pick where you're going for dinner that night, or if you're gonna go for a walk or a hike, you're trying to pick the time of it. And like, we know that you're adjustable. We know that you're adaptable. We know that like you can flow, and that's good. But you also need to practice having boundaries and stating your opinion so you can get more comfortable in your energy. So something that I started to do with my friends is if we were going for a bike ride and nobody could pick, or the question went out in the group text, what trail should we do? I'd wait for a little bit, I'd check in with myself and say, which one would I have fun doing? Because ultimately, I'd be happy to do any trail. I love biking. But what trail do I really want to do? And I'd share it to the group and I would just say, hey, I'm open to anything. What about this one? Just giving an option, starting to share my opinion. And the more often I practiced that, the more comfortable I became with sharing my opinion and sharing my ideas and sharing something that was calling on my heart and soul. So a reminder for you, people pleasing is not a good habit. You can have a kind and compassionate heart. You can help other people, but not at the cost of you. Not at the cost of who you are and the values that you have. So I really hope that today's teaching has brought something new to you and your life, and maybe you can start to see how your people-pleasing patterns are making you small, how you're trying to keep everyone else comfortable, yet you feel uncomfortable. It's time to start listening to the voice of your soul and letting yourself be guided by the inner authority that you have, rather than constantly giving your power away to everyone else. So if you have any questions or anything resonated with you, drop a comment below. Let me know. Definitely give it a thumbs up if this resonated with you. And I will be back again for another live sharing more information for your spiritual journey. So thank you so much for being here, and I will chat with you soon. Bye.